Britain stands at the brink of an upheaval unlike anything seen in living memory. A storm has erupted at the heart of power, tearing through Westminster and shaking the monarchy itself. Keir Starmer, in a furious outburst that has stunned the nation, savaged King Charles directly, unleashing words no Prime Minister has ever dared to utter. This is not just politics as usual. It is a seismic rupture that threatens to unravel the fragile balance of Britain's democracy. And in the ashes of this unprecedented clash, a new force is rising, one that could ignite a political revolution and change the future of the nation forever. The silence that once protected the monarchy has been shattered. For centuries, Britain's crown has survived by staying above the fray, avoiding entanglement in the daily battles of Parliament. Yet behind closed doors, something extraordinary has happened. Whispers spread of King Charles meeting privately with Reform UK, a gesture subtle yet powerful, one that signalled recognition of a movement once dismissed as fringe. Insiders describe the atmosphere as quiet approval, a nod of legitimacy that sent shockwaves through the political order. When news of this meeting leaked, it ignited a firestorm. But the blaze turned into a full inferno when Keir Starmer learned of it, and exploded with a rage so fierce it left his own allies stunned. Reports from inside Number 10 reveal that Starmer branded the King's actions reckless and dangerously irresponsible, accusing Charles of undermining democracy itself. But in making this charge, Starmer committed what many now call the gravest mistake of his career. To openly savage the crown is to cross a line no leader has dared. For generations, even the fiercest critics of monarchy avoided direct confrontation. The crown was seen not as a rival, but as the unifying thread of Britain's national identity. And yet, in his fury, Starmer ripped that thread apart. The consequences have been immediate and devastating. Within hours, headlines erupted across every major outlet. Prime Minister versus King. The symbolism alone was catastrophic. To the public, the crown is not a politician, not a party. It is tradition, stability, and unity. By setting himself against the monarchy, Starmer appeared reckless, arrogant, and desperate. Newspapers that once offered Labour sympathetic coverage turned on him overnight. Even those loyal to his cause admitted privately that he had gone too far. In Parliament, whispers grew into open condemnation. Senior MPs, once defenders of Starmer, now speak of betrayal, warning that his outburst has sparked a constitutional crisis that could destroy not only his leadership, but the Labour Party itself. The people's reaction was even harsher. Polls conducted within 24 hours showed Labour in freefall, its support collapsing faster than at any point in modern history. 60% of Britons declared that Starmer had crossed a dangerous line, with many demanding a full apology to King Charles. Reform UK, meanwhile, seized the moment. Donations surged, membership doubled, and rallies overflowed with energy. For millions of ordinary Britons, Farage's movement suddenly became not a fringe protest, but the only true voice of the people. And the more Starmer raged against the monarchy, the stronger Reform's momentum grew. Inside Labour's inner circle, chaos now reigns. Ministers are torn between defending the Prime Minister's fury and distancing themselves to save their own careers. Anonymous briefings paint a picture of a government in collapse, shouting matches, panic and despair echoing through the corridors of Downing Street. One insider declared, "This is no longer a party in power, it is a party in freefall." The aura of leadership that once surrounded Starmer has crumbled. His authority has been shredded, not by policy disputes or economic troubles, but by an outburst that has alienated the very institution meant to symbolise unity. Nigel Farage has wasted no time exploiting the moment. Standing outside Reform UK headquarters, he thundered that Labour's leader had turned his back on Britain's traditions, its monarchy and its people. His words, carried on every channel and shared endlessly online, electrified disillusioned voters. Farage framed the crisis as proof that Labour could no longer represent the nation, that only Reform UK stood with the people and the crown. His speeches are drawing crowds once unimaginable, transforming political frustration into a revolutionary movement. Meanwhile, Buckingham Palace matters. In the court of public opinion, the King's silence is seen as tacit approval of Reform's rise, and every passing day that Starmer fails to recover only deepens this impression. Across Britain, the crisis has grown into a cultural reckoning. Families struggling under crushing bills and soaring food prices no longer see Labour as a party of hope, but as an arrogant government lashing out at the nation's crown. Farmers, pensioners and working-class communities alike are rallying to Reform's banner. In Manchester and Birmingham, protesters carry placards reading, "The King speaks for us." Others march with banners bearing both Charles's and Farage's images, a fusion of tradition and rebellion once unthinkable, but now unstoppable. Britain is not simply facing a political scandal, it is witnessing the birth of a movement. This is no longer just about Keir Starmer's fury, it is about the unravelling of Britain's political order. The Prime Minister has done what no leader dared. He has savaged the King, and in doing so, he has ignited forces that could sweep him aside and usher in a revolution that will reshape the destiny of Britain itself. The storm unleashed by Keir Starmer's attack on King Charles is not abating. It is intensifying with every passing hour. What began as a furious outburst behind closed doors has spiralled into a constitutional earthquake that is shaking Britain to its very foundations. Westminster, once the centre of political stability, now resembles a battlefield. Allies have turned into adversaries, loyalists into critics, and the once disciplined machinery of Labour government has ground to a halt under the weight of scandal and disbelief. For many, the sight of a Prime Minister standing in open defiance of the monarchy is not just unprecedented, it is unforgivable. And the consequences are proving catastrophic. Inside Parliament, the atmosphere is charged with fury and fear. Labour MPs, already restless from months of broken promises and economic mismanagement, are now openly questioning their leader's judgment. Senior ministers are locked in desperate arguments, with some demanding that Starmer immediately retract his words and apologise to King Charles, while others warn that any retreat would shatter what little authority he has left. The cabinet itself appears fractured, with reports of shouting matches and slammed doors echoing through Number 10. What was once a government promising stability has descended into a spectacle of chaos, exposing a Prime Minister no longer in command of his party, his country, or even himself. The opposition has seized the moment with ruthless precision. Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, has transformed from a voice on the margins into the lightning rod of national outrage. Farage, a master of timing, has painted Starmer as a man who has betrayed Britain's deepest traditions. Standing before cheering crowds, he insists that a government, willing to disrespect the Crown, can never respect its people. His speeches are framed not as partisan attacks, but as declarations of a national awakening. The optics are devastating for Labour. While Starmer appears furious, cornered and isolated, Farage stands calm, confident and statesmanlike. It is a contrast that resonates deeply with millions. The media has amplified this perception, turning every headline into a hammer blow against the Prime Minister. Front pages scream of the Crown versus Number 10 and Starmer's fatal blunder. Television panels replay his words on loop, dissecting every phrase, every expression, every hint of desperation in his tone. Historians draw chilling parallels to Britain's last great rupture between Crown and government, the abdication crisis of Edward VIII, warning that this confrontation may prove just as destabilising. Even commentators usually aligned with Labour admit that Starmer has crossed a line from which there is no return. One columnist bluntly wrote, "You do not attack the Crown and expect to survive." Starmer has signed his own political death warrant. The public reaction is even more damning. Across Britain, protests swell in size and ferocity. In London, demonstrators gather outside Downing Street, chanting, "The King speaks for us, Starmer must go." In Birmingham and Manchester, rallies erupt with Reform UK banners alongside portraits of King Charles, a powerful symbol of rebellion fused with tradition. Social media burns with hashtags demanding the Prime Minister's. Polling data reveals the scale of Labour's collapse. Once riding high on promises of stability and unity, the party now finds itself sliding beneath reform in key constituencies. Surveys show more than 60% of Britons believe Starmer disrespected the monarchy, while nearly half demand his immediate resignation. Donations to Labour have dried up, local offices report dwindling volunteers, and grassroots activists admit privately that they can no longer defend their leader on the doorstep. Meanwhile, Reform UK's coffers are overflowing. Volunteers flood into local campaign centres, donations pour in from across the country, and membership is at levels once unimaginable. The revolution that Starmer feared is not theoretical, it is happening in real time. Inside Number 10, the mood has shifted from panic to despair. Leaks describe Starmer as a man unravelling, furious one moment, withdrawn the next, lashing out at aides before retreating into silence. Emergency meetings stretch late into the night, but no strategy seems capable of halting the collapse. Should he double down and frame the monarchy as meddling in politics? Should he retreat and beg forgiveness? Every option appears fatal. To attack further risks, alienating the nation entirely. To apologise risks humiliation and confirms weakness. Paralysis has taken hold, and in that paralysis, reform continues to surge ahead. The palace, meanwhile, has remained officially silent, but silence itself has become its greatest weapon. The absence of denial from Buckingham Palace fuels speculation that King Charles did, in fact, extend his tacit approval to reform UK. Whether or not the reports are true is irrelevant. In politics, perception is reality, and the perception now entrenched in the public mind is that the Crown has withdrawn its symbolic support from Labour. This is perhaps the deadliest blow of all. In a constitutional monarchy, the Crown does not need to speak. The weight of its silence is enough to reshape the nation. And in this silence, the monarchy appears to have chosen stability and tradition over a government consumed by chaos. The crisis has transcended politics. It has become cultural. Families struggling under crushing costs see in Starmer not a leader, but a politician consumed by rage and arrogance. Farmers and pensioners who once trusted Labour's pledges now rally to reform's call for renewal. Young people, disillusioned with years of broken promises, find themselves drawn to a movement framed as a rebellion against the establishment itself. Britain is dividing along deeper lines than party affiliation. It is dividing over values, identity, and trust. Starmer's attack on the Crown is seen not as a defence of democracy, but as proof of a government that no longer represents its people. Across Westminster, the whispers grow louder. Senior Labour MPs are already plotting how to distance themselves from the Prime Minister, fearful that his downfall will drag the entire party into oblivion. Some discuss the possibility of a no-confidence vote. Others consider forming breakaway factions to salvage their political futures. The sense of betrayal runs deep. As one backbencher reportedly said, "He has not only lost control of the party, he has lost control of the country." The Labour Party, once united under the promise of renewal, now teeters on the edge of implosion. The stakes could not be higher. What began as an outburst of fury has become the defining crisis of a generation. Britain now faces not just the collapse of a government, but the rise of a movement that could transform its political landscape forever. Reform UK is no longer dismissed as an outsider. It is rising as the vessel of the people's anger, the alternative government in waiting. And at the centre of it all stands Keir Starmer, a Prime Minister isolated, despised and consumed by a war with the monarchy that he cannot possibly win. The political storm that has erupted between Keir Starmer and King Charles has now reached a point where the cracks in Britain's establishment are no longer hidden. They are tearing open before the public eye. For decades, the monarchy and the government have carefully balanced power, each operating within invisible lines of influence. But Starmer's direct challenge to the king has shattered that silent agreement. What began as a heated exchange of words has spiralled into something far greater. In Westminster, the atmosphere has turned poisonous. MPs on both sides of the House of Commons are whispering behind closed doors, plotting their moves as if Britain were on the brink of a palace coup. Labour MPs appear divided, with some praising Starmer's boldness as a necessary stand against what they see as outdated royal interference, while others fear he has crossed a dangerous line that could alienate millions of traditional voters. The Conservatives, sensing opportunity, are circling like hawks. They have seized on Starmer's outburst as proof of his arrogance and dangerous disregard for Britain's heritage. But even they are cautious, knowing that the public's mood is unpredictable and could turn against anyone who misreads the moment. Meanwhile, the king remains silent, but sources from Buckingham Palace suggest his fury is uncontainable, with whispers that he may even consider exercising rare constitutional powers to reassert his influence. Such a move would trigger the most profound crisis between Crown and Parliament in generations. On the streets, the people are restless. Crowds have begun to form outside Westminster, some chanting in support of Starmer for daring to confront the monarchy, others condemning him as a traitor who disrespects the nation's traditions. In major cities, the divide is even sharper, with younger Britons rallying behind Starmer's defiance, seeing it as a symbol of breaking free from centuries of entrenched privilege. But in rural areas and among older generations, loyalty to the Crown remains strong, and Starmer's actions are being viewed as nothing short of rebellion. This cultural and generational divide is creating a political tinderbox, where any spark could set off unrest on a scale not seen in Britain for decades. The media too is fueling the flames. Headlines scream of betrayal, revolution and national crisis, each outlet amplifying the drama to capture the public's attention, deepening the chaos, and ensuring that the story dominates every conversation in the country. What makes this moment even more explosive is that Starmer seems unfazed by the backlash. Instead of softening his words or seeking reconciliation, he has doubled down, repeating his stance that Britain must move forward, free from the shadows of royal influence. His insistence on framing the confrontation as a battle between progress and tradition has only further entrenched divisions, forcing the public to pick a side. By doing this, he has transformed a single clash into a nationwide struggle for identity. Are Britons subjects of the crown, bound by tradition and history, or are they citizens of a modern democracy that must sever its ties to royal authority? The question is no longer abstract. It is alive, burning, and demanding an answer. Every day that passes without resolution adds to the sense that Britain is teetering on the edge of something monumental. Inside Labour, panic is growing. Senior figures fear that Starmer's gamble could cost them everything, especially with Reform UK and the Conservatives waiting in the wings, ready to exploit the turmoil. Yet others argue that retreat is impossible. If Starmer backs down now, he will appear weak, and his leadership will collapse. If he presses forward, he risks open confrontation with the king, which could destabilise not just his party, but the nation itself. This is the political trap Starmer has created for himself, one from which there seems to be no easy escape. Meanwhile, the monarchy is facing its own crisis. The king, long seen as a figure of stability, is being painted either as a victim of political aggression or as a monarch overstepping his role in a modern democracy. The battle lines are clear, but the battlefield is unpredictable. Britain has not seen such a dangerous standoff in living memory, and the outcome could reshape its future for generations. The growing unrest has left international allies watching with deep concern. Across Europe and the Atlantic, leaders are questioning whether Britain's institutions are strong enough to withstand this internal conflict. What was once seen as one of the most stable democracies in the world now looks like a nation in the grip of a political earthquake. The confrontation between Starmer and King Charles has not only weakened the government's standing at home, but also undermined Britain's reputation abroad. Investors are nervous, markets are jittery, and whispers of constitutional reform are circulating in think tanks and academic circles. For centuries, Britain's strength lay in its traditions, but now those same traditions are being ripped apart in a battle for survival. The stage is set for the next chapter of this crisis, and the stakes could not be higher.